Hey everybody, welcome to V5, where we spend about 5 minutes getting on our soapbox, some of the hottest takes, some of the hottest topics in all of B2B sales, B2B go-to-market, and all things in between. I have the pleasure today of being joined by Daryl Weldon. She is the Vice President of Sales at Verisys, and she has a hot take. Daryl, what do you got?
So today I thought we'd talk about ROI as a nice to have, whereas risk mitigation is a budget unlock. You know, if you don't know how to position your solution in terms of regulatory protection, compliance assurance, or brand safety, you're not selling, you're storytelling. Storytelling's got a place in the sales process, but if you're hitting procurement and legal, and that's where you're losing your deals, you're missing something. And really, it's about tying to risk. ROI sounds like hope, whereas risk mitigation is control. That's really where it's at. You know, CFOs don't need another hockey stick graph. They really need a firewall, and you got to give it to them. You got to insulate them from the penalties, from the audit findings, you know, the reputational exposure. That's where your hope lives, is on the ROI slide. You know, urgency lives in the risk mitigation story.
I couldn't agree with you more. We could spend days on this one. Where do you think the tendency to lean more into ROI versus risk comes from?
I think 2021, everybody was, you know, growth. And it really was around the value prop, and it's just a natural glide, right into value prop and the ROI. And of course, you know, let me tell you about how we can grow you. Let me tell you how everything can just evolve, right? But you forget to talk about the pain, right? So it's that whole show me, you know, shout out to Sam McKenna, right? It's all about, let me talk about your risk. Let me talk about what you're going to lose, right? Where your pitfalls are, where the hole is, and what the problem is going to be. Everybody wants growth, of course, but what they really don't want is problems. And so you've got to show them how to avoid that. And, you know, so yeah, growth, but clutch is staying away from the problems.
Yeah. Problems over profit. Like, we don't want that, right? Like, profit's great, but like, we really don't want problems. I think you touched on something that's really important. And like, our audience typically comes from, call it like the middle of the funnel. And you touched on the notion, if your deals are getting stuck in procurement, if your deals are getting stuck in review, if your deals are getting stuck at the kind of close to the goal line, it's because you haven't included risk in your value case, or you haven't enabled your buyer to talk about risk on your behalf. How do you think sellers can improve their abilities to do this immediately? Because again, I couldn't agree with you more that this is a problem. But for the folks listening, like, what are some practical steps they can take to close this gap?
Well, the nice thing is that, you know, risk mitigation resonates across all functions. So it's not just finance, right? So it's really being able to talk across the different functions. I mean, we're always talking about spreading across, right? And multithreading. This is a perfect example of being able to do that. You know, you can talk about citing more than one stakeholder with all of this. So like legal teams, downstream liability, sanctions, all of that, compliance leaders, CMS audit readiness, market and branding. If the story breaks, you know, you hired a sanctioned provider. Nobody wants that, right? And so you want to make sure that you have checked yourself. Did we quantify the cost with inaction? Did we, you know, are we making sure that we're checking ourselves before you are getting to the goal line? You know, are you checking to make sure that, you know, who owns compliance and legal and brand safety, that you've covered your bases on all of these things? Checking in on, you know, what's the worst case scenario that we are preventing, making sure that you're answering those questions for yourself, and then covering that within your sales process and checking that you've covered that with each of the leaders that would cover that internally. In healthcare sales today, the do nothing risk is your biggest competitor. So you got to make sure you've quantified it.
Quantified it, that element of risk. We hear it over and over again. There's this fascinating conversation. I think we can have it for a few days. It's one I think the audience will respond really well to. And if folks wanted to talk to you specifically about it or reach out to you, where would they do that?
Yeah, so they can find me on LinkedIn. Pretty easy to find. Daryl Weldon is, you know, I mean, I'm there. I think I'm the only one on LinkedIn.
You're out here.
Yeah, that would be the easiest way to find me.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you for spending some time with us today, and we'll do a much better job communicating the value of risk management in the sales process.
Thanks so much. It was a pleasure.
You've been listening to The Unexpected Lever. This stuff gets you fired up and you want to talk about it with other leaders? Join the Powerline Slack community. It's a modern, open access community for go-to-market professionals and AI enthusiasts alike. who are all ready to turn buzz into business outcomes. Join by going to vivint.com/community. We hope to see you there.